What if the relentless pursuit of knowledge, driven by an insatiable human curiosity, inadvertently led to unimaginable ethical nightmares, casting a long, dark shadow over the very concept of progress? Today, we delve into 10 bizarre experiments that truly happened, pushing the boundaries of morality and human endurance to their absolute breaking point. These are not mere cautionary tales, but chilling historical accounts, each a stark reminder of the profound consequences when the thirst for discovery overshadows fundamental human dignity. The settings varied wildly, from sterile university labs to covert government facilities, but the overarching theme remained consistent. And tell us in the comments where you are watching from. Now, prepare for Experiment 7, the infamous CIA MKUltra LSD and mind control experiments. Spanning from the early 1950s to the late 1960s, the CIA conducted secret, often illegal, experiments on unwitting citizens, administering powerful psychoactive drugs like LSD and other chemicals, often combined with sensory deprivation, hypnosis, and psychological torture. This project was driven by Cold War fears of Soviet mind control, a desperate attempt to gain an advantage in the clandestine psychological warfare. The impact was catastrophic, resulting in deaths, severe psychological damage to countless individuals, and a massive, decades-long cover-up. The sheer scale and brutality of MKUltra exposed the darkest depths of government experimentation, a profound betrayal of trust that remains one of the most shocking revelations in history. This is the one that will truly shock you, revealing the extent to which powerful entities would go in the name of national security, trampling over every ethical boundary imaginable. How far would an individual truly go if explicitly told to inflict pain, or if their fundamental freedom and autonomy were abruptly stripped away? These unsettling questions form the bedrock of our next series of disturbing examinations into human behavior. Experiment 6 unveils the notorious Milgram obedience experiments, conducted at Yale University in the early 1960s. Here, ordinary participants believed they were administering increasingly painful electric shocks to a learner who was, in fact, an actor. An authoritative experimenter, dressed in a grey laboratory coat, consistently instructed them to continue, even as the learner feigned screams of agony and pleas for release from the adjacent room. The context for this chilling study was a fervent attempt to understand the psychological mechanisms underpinning obedience to authority, particularly in the aftermath of the Holocaust, seeking to explain how seemingly ordinary people could participate in horrific atrocities. The impact was profoundly unsettling, revealing a disturbingly high level of obedience, with a significant majority of participants willing to inflict what they believed to be extreme, even lethal pain, simply because an authority figure commanded it. The experiment subjects, caught between their conscience and the pressure of the experimenter, often exhibited visible distress, trembling, sweating, and protesting. Yet many continued to the highest shock levels. Are we all then capable of such blind obedience, surrendering our moral compass to external command? The findings suggested a frightening vulnerability within the human psyche to hierarchical pressure. Shifting from the shock of obedience tests, we delve into Experiment 5, the infamous Stanford Prison Experiment, a powerful demonstration of how quickly perceived power and authority can corrupt. In 1971, at Stanford University, college students were arbitrarily assigned roles as either prisoners or guards within a simulated prison environment constructed in the university's basement. The context was an investigation into the psychological effects of institutional life and how roles and social situations could influence behavior. Initially, the student guards were given minimal instructions, primarily to maintain order, yet within days, the experiment spiraled dramatically out of control. The guards became increasingly authoritarian, disregard for the well-being of the experiment subjects, who ranged from unsuspecting citizens to vulnerable children and even animals. Our journey begins with Experiment 10, the infamous rat park addiction experiment. In environments devoid of stimulation, rats readily became addicted to morphine, a grim testament to the drug's power. However, authoritarian and abusive, subjecting the prisoners to psychological torment, humiliation, and deprivation. The prisoners, in turn, exhibited extreme stress, emotional breakdowns, and signs of acute trauma. The impact was so severe and immediate that the experiment, initially planned for 2 weeks, had to be terminated prematurely after only 6 days. A testament to the rapid and potent psychological transformations that occurred. It exposed the ease with which individuals could internalize roles and the dark potential for cruelty when power dynamics are left unchecked, creating a psychological prison more potent than any physical barrier. From the confines of psychological prisons, our narrative transitions to the chilling reality of invisible threats and covert operations. Experiment 4 unveils Operation Sea Spray, a clandestine event that unfolded in 1950. In a shocking display of disregard for public safety, the U.S. Navy secretly released vast quantities of airborne bacteria, Bacillus globigii, then believed to be harmless, over the unsuspecting populace of San Francisco. The context for this audacious act was a Cold War biological warfare test, designed to assess the vulnerability of American cities to a biological attack and to understand the spread patterns of airborne pathogens. The impact was far from benign. A significant spike in pneumonia-like illnesses was recorded in the weeks following the release, and at least one death. That of a man who died from a rare bacterial infection was later linked to the spray. All of this transpired without public knowledge, consent, or any form of warning to the residents, turning an entire city into an unwitting laboratory. This covert biological testing highlighted the terrifying lengths to which military agencies would go in the name of national security, treating citizens as mere data points in a dangerous game. From the vast scale of population-level testing, we now turn to the profound cruelty of isolation and its devastating effects on developing beings. What happens when scientific curiosity crosses the line into outright cruelty and deception, leaving indelible scars on its subjects? We delve now into the profound ethical breaches that highlight the darkest corners of scientific ambition. Experiment 3 reveals Harlow's maternal separation experiments, conducted at the University of Wisconsin from the late 1950s into the 1960s. Here, infant rhesus monkeys, mere days old, were cruelly separated from their biological mothers. In their place, they were offered surrogate mothers, one made of cold, hard wire, offering only milk, and another covered in soft terry cloth, providing comfort but no sustenance. The context was an attempt to understand the critical importance of maternal bonding and comfort in early development, challenging the prevailing belief that infants attach to mothers solely for food. The impact was devastating. The monkeys consistently preferred the cloth mother, clinging to it for security, even if the wire mother provided all their nourishment. These isolated infants suffered severe psychological and social impairments, exhibiting profound anxiety, rocking behaviors, and an inability to interact normally with other monkeys later in life. They grew up to be maladjusted, aggressive, and often abusive parents themselves, unable to form healthy attachments. The experimenters, in their pursuit of knowledge, inflicted immense, irreversible suffering. However, when placed in Rat Park, a rich, stimulating environment filled with toys, tunnels, and companions, these same rats showed significantly less inclination towards the drug, even when readily available. This groundbreaking study, conducted primarily in the 1970s, profoundly challenged the prevailing view of addiction as a purely chemical dependency, demonstrating with chilling clarity the critical and irreplaceable need for emotional connection and nurturing touch in development. Did the pursuit of this knowledge, however valuable its findings, truly justify such widespread suffering and the destruction of sentient beings' lives? The question remains a haunting echo in the annals of unethical research. From the cruelty of psychological isolation, we transition to the insidious danger of invisible threats and the profound betrayal of public trust. Experiment 2 exposes the human radiation experiments, a dark chapter spanning decades, primarily during the Cold War. Various government agencies, in a horrifying display of scientific hubris, knowingly exposed unsuspecting citizens to radiation. These victims included vulnerable hospital patients, often terminally ill, pregnant women, and even children, many of whom were unaware they were part of any study. The context was a desperate effort to investigate the effects of radiation on the human body, driven by fears of nuclear warfare and the need to understand radiation sickness. The impact was catastrophic and deeply unethical. These experiments caused long-term health issues, increased risks of cancer, agonizing suffering, and premature deaths among the subjects. The profound secrecy and lack of informed consent represented an egregious betrayal of public trust, eroding faith in both scientific institutions and government authority. The victims were often poor, marginalized, or institutionalized, making them easy targets for exploitation, their lives deemed expendable in the name of national security and scientific advancement. Finally, we arrive at Experiment 1, arguably the most infamous and ethically reprehensible study in American history, the Tuskegee Syphilis Study. For 40 years, from 1932 to 1972, the U.S. Public Health Service conducted a study in Macon County, Alabama, on approximately 600 African American men. Of these, 399 had syphilis, and 201 did not. The context was to observe the natural progression of untreated syphilis in men, under the false pretense of providing free health care. The men were never informed of their diagnosis, nor were they ever treated for the disease, even after penicillin became widely available as a safe and effective cure in the 1940s. They were actively prevented from accessing treatment. The impact was devastating: preventable deaths, widespread suffering, and the transmission of the disease to their wives and children. This profound medical malpractice led to immense physical and psychological pain, and, perhaps most damagingly, fostered a deep-seated and enduring distrust within the African American community towards the medical establishment, a stain on medical ethics that echoes to this day. These 10 experiments serve as stark, chilling reminders of the ethical tightrope walked in the name of science, and the profound, often tragic consequences when that line is not only crossed but utterly obliterated. They underscore the critical importance of informed consent, ethical oversight, and the fundamental respect for human dignity in all scientific endeavors. Which of these bizarre experiments shocked you the most, and why do you think humanity continually pushes these perilous boundaries? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Like this video, share it with those who need to see it, and subscribe for more explorations into the dark, often forgotten corners of history, suggesting instead that social conditions and environmental factors played a crucial, perhaps even dominant role in drug dependence. Its impact was immense, shifting scientific paradigms and advocating for more holistic approaches to understanding and treating addiction. From the confines of rat cages, our exploration transitions to the delicate vulnerability of human development. Next, we uncover Experiment 9, tragically known as the Monster Study. In 1939, at the University of Iowa, orphaned children became unwitting subjects in a cruel psychological experiment. Some children, already struggling with speech impediments, received positive speech therapy, while others, with perfectly normal speech, were subjected to negative therapy, being told repeatedly that they had stutters. The context was a misguided attempt to explore the psychological impact of verbal abuse on speech development. The impact was devastating. The children falsely labeled as stutterers developed lasting psychological scars, some refusing to speak for years, exhibiting profound insecurity and living with the trauma well into adulthood. Could words alone truly break a child's spirit, leaving such indelible marks? This brings us to Experiment 8, the chilling case of little Albert. In 1920, at Johns Hopkins University, an infant named Albert B. was conditioned to fear a white rat. Initially, Albert showed no fear of the rat, but repeatedly, as he reached for it, a loud, jarring noise was made directly behind his head. The context was to demonstrate classical conditioning in humans, proving that emotional responses could be learned and instilled. The impact was horrifying. Albert quickly developed a profound phobia, not just of white rats, but of anything white and furry, including Santa Claus masks. He was never deconditioned, leaving him with a potential lifelong phobia, a stark ethical failure. From the creation of fear, we now unfortunately transition to the dark realm of mind control. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel